Before 2026 demands anything from you, it demands discipline, not louder words, not public promises, but quiet focus and private execution. Because the people who change their lives don't announce their moves, they build in silence. And while the world is busy explaining, reacting, and seeking approval, a small group is locking in, leveling up, and positioning themselves for outcomes that speak for themselves. This is not a year for noise. This is a year for focus. Ladies and gentlemen, 2026 is not the year to talk more. It is the year to move differently. Because loud people explain, focused people execute. Let me say this clearly. Silence is not hiding. Silence is positioning. When you announce every move, you invite opinions. When you invite opinions, you invite doubt. And when doubt enters the room, momentum leaves. In 2026, your assignment is simple. Focus on yourself and stay silent. Not silent because you're afraid, silent because you're dangerous when undistracted. Here's the truth most people don't like to hear. Not everyone deserves to know your vision. Some people can only see your future through the lens of their limitations. That's why focus is expensive. It costs you conversations. It costs you comfort. It costs you validation. But the return on focus is freedom. See, the world rewards results, not explanations. Winners don't argue their value, they demonstrate it. Stop explaining your goals to people who aren't disciplined enough to understand the process. Stop seeking approval from people who don't pay the price you're paying. You don't need more motivation. You need more structure. Discipline will take you places motivation never will. Every hour you spend reacting is an hour stolen from creation. Every unnecessary conversation is a withdrawal from your future. Choose 2026. Choose silence over noise. Choose depth over attention. Choose progress over applause, because isolation is not punishment. It's preparation. Before elevation comes separation. Before visibility comes invisibility. Before success comes silence. Let them wonder. Let them doubt. Let them talk while you build. And when the results show up, you won't need to say a word, because results speak fluently. Focus on yourself. Stay silent. And let 2026 introduce a version of you that requires no explanation. Silence is often misunderstood. People confuse it with fear, hesitation, or lack of confidence. In reality, silence is one of the most powerful strategies a focused person can use. Silence is not weakness. It is control. It is the ability to choose when to speak and when to withhold, when to reveal and when to protect. In a world where everyone is talking, explaining, and defending themselves, silence becomes a competitive advantage. When you are silent, you are observing. You are gathering information while others are giving it away. You are thinking while others are reacting. Most people speak too quickly because they're trying to prove something. Silence removes that need. It signals that you are secure enough to let your actions do the talking. You don't rush to justify your decisions because you trust your direction. You don't argue your worth because you know your value will eventually be seen through results. Silence protects your energy. Every unnecessary conversation drains focus. Every explanation costs mental clarity. When you stay silent, you conserve the resources that matter most: attention, time, and emotional stability. These resources are limited, and successful people guard them carefully. Silence creates space to think deeply, plan strategically, and move intentionally. It allows you to build without interruption. Silence also protects your vision. Not everyone needs to know what you are working on. Some people listen only to criticize, doubt, or project their own fears onto your goals. When you speak too soon, you expose your ideas before they are strong enough to stand on their own. Silence gives your plans time to mature. It allows progress to happen without external pressure, opinions, or sabotage. There is power in being underestimated. Silence often makes people assume you are inactive, unsure, or behind. That assumption works in your favor. While others are distracted by appearances, you are focused on progress. While they are talking about what they plan to do, you are quietly doing the work. When results finally show up, they arrive without warning, and that impact is far stronger than constant announcements. Silence sharpens discipline. When no one is watching, applauding, or validating you, the only thing that keeps you moving is commitment. This builds internal strength. You learn to rely on structure instead of motivation, habits instead of hype. Silence removes the crutch of external approval and replaces it with self-respect. You stop performing for others and start producing for yourself. Silence is also a form of leadership. Strong leaders do not need to dominate every conversation. They listen more than they speak. They choose their words carefully because they understand that words carry weight. When a silent person speaks, people pay attention. Their voice has authority because it is not overused. Silence gives credibility to speech. In moments of conflict, silence is especially powerful. Not every attack deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Silence keeps you from being pulled into emotional battles that offer no return. It keeps you calm while others lose control. It allows time to reveal truth naturally, without forcing. Often, silence lets situations resolve themselves better than any explanation ever could. Silence builds mystery, and mystery creates respect. When people don't have constant access to your thoughts, plans, or emotions, they perceive you as grounded and composed. This is not about manipulation, it is about boundaries. Silence is a boundary that protects your inner world from unnecessary interference. In the long run, silence strengthens results. Progress made quietly tends to be more stable, more sustainable, and more intentional. It is built on consistency rather than attention. When success finally becomes visible, it does not need defense or explanation. It stands on its own. Silence is not about disappearing. It is about focusing. It is about choosing growth over noise, execution over opinion, and depth over attention. Those who understand this move differently. They don't rush, they don't argue, they don't explain prematurely. They work, they build, and they wait. And when the time comes to speak, their results speak first. Focus is not just a habit, it is a decision that shapes the quality of your life. Freedom does not come from doing more things, chasing every opportunity, or responding to every demand. True freedom comes from choosing what deserves your attention and eliminating everything else. When you focus, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You move from being pulled by circumstances to being guided by purpose. Most people believe freedom means options, but options without focus become chains. Too many choices create confusion, stress, and inconsistency. Focus simplifies life. It narrows your path so your energy is no longer scattered. When your attention is divided, your results are diluted. When your attention is concentrated, progress accelerates. Focus creates momentum, and momentum creates freedom. Focus frees your mind. A distracted mind is constantly tired because it is always switching, comparing, and reacting. Focus quiets the noise. It gives your thoughts direction. When you know exactly what you are working toward, decisions become easier. You stop wasting mental energy on things that do not move you forward. This clarity reduces anxiety and replaces it with confidence. Focus also frees your time. Time is not lost, it is misused. When you focus on what matters, you naturally say no to what doesn't. You stop overcommitting, over-explaining, and overextending yourself. Focus teaches you boundaries. It helps you protect your schedule from distractions disguised as obligations. The more focused you are, the more control you have over how your time is spent, and control over time is a form of freedom. Financial freedom is built on focus. Wealth is rarely the result of scattered effort. It is created by sustained attention on a small number of high-value activities. Focus allows you to develop rare skills, deepen expertise, and create leverage. While others jump from idea to idea, focused individuals compound results over time. That compounding effect is what eventually creates options, independence, and stability. Focus creates emotional freedom as well. When you are clear about your priorities, you stop being emotionally available to everything and everyone. You are no longer controlled by opinions, criticism, or comparison. Focus anchors you. It reminds you why you started and where you are going. This reduces the need for validation and approval. Emotional freedom comes when your sense of worth is tied to progress, not applause. Focus demands sacrifice, but that sacrifice buys freedom. You may have to give up comfort, entertainment, or instant gratification. You may have to walk alone for a season, but what you gain is far greater than what you give up. You gain control over your direction. You gain the ability to say yes on your terms later because you had the discipline to say no early. Focus turns effort into results. Hard work without focus leads to burnout. Focus work leads to breakthroughs. When your energy is aligned with a clear objective, every action builds on the last. You stop starting over. You stop spinning your wheels. Progress becomes measurable, and progress builds confidence. Confidence over time creates freedom of choice. Focus also frees you from urgency. When you are focused, you are not rushed by trends, pressure, or other people's timelines. You understand that meaningful outcomes take time. This patience allows you to move steadily instead of frantically. You stop chasing shortcuts and start building foundations. Freedom grows where patience and focus meet. In the end, focus creates freedom because it puts you in control. Control of your mind, your time, your emotions, and your direction. A focused life may look narrow from the outside, but from the inside, it feels expansive. It feels calm, intentional, and powerful. Freedom is not found in doing everything. It is found in doing the right things consistently, and that begins with focus. In a world where everyone is explaining themselves, results have become rare. People talk about what they are going to do, why they haven't done it yet, and who or what is holding them back. Explanations have become a substitute for execution. But explanations do not change outcomes. Results do. Results require no defense, no justification, and no persuasion. They stand on their own. When you produce results, you eliminate the need to convince anyone of your ability. You don't have to argue your competence or describe your potential. Results remove doubt because they are visible, measurable, and undeniable. An explanation can be questioned, challenged, or ignored. Assault cannot. It either exists or it doesn't. That is why results carry authority. Explanations often come from insecurity. People explain because they want to be understood, accepted, or excused. Results come from discipline. They are built quietly, consistently, and without drama. When you focus on producing outcomes instead of managing perceptions, your energy shifts from talking to doing. This shift is where real progress begins. Results also protect your time and focus. Every explanation invites conversation, debate, and opinion. Conversations multiply and focus fractures. Results end conversations. They simplify interactions. When results show up, there is nothing left to discuss. The work has already spoken. This allows you to move forward instead of staying stuck in cycles of justification. There is a confidence that comes from results that words cannot replicate. When you know you're doing the work, you don't feel pressure to perform for others. You don't rush to announce progress or seek validation. You trust the process because you are engaged in it daily. This confidence is quiet, grounded, and stable. It doesn't rise and fall with feedback because it is built on evidence, not opinion. Results create credibility over time. Credibility is not granted by intention, it is earned through consistency. Anyone can explain a plan, few can execute it repeatedly. When your track record grows, people begin to listen differently. Your words carry more weight because they are backed by proof. Results turn your voice into authority. Explanations are temporary. They may satisfy curiosity for a moment, but they do not build trust long term. Results, on the other hand, compound. Each outcome reinforces the next. Small wins stack into momentum. Momentum builds reputation. Reputation creates opportunity. This entire chain starts not with what you say, but with what you deliver. Results also free you emotionally. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop seeking approval. You no longer need others to agree with your choices or understand your path. Your focus turns inward, toward execution and improvement. This creates emotional independence. You are no longer controlled by reactions because your sense of progress is internal and measurable. When challenges arise, explanations multiply. It is easy to talk about obstacles. It is hard to work through them. Results are born in these moments. They are forged when excuses are replaced with action and persistence. Every result carries the story of effort within it, but it does not need to tell that story. The outcome alone is enough. In leadership, results matter more than charisma. In business, results matter more than intention. In life, results matter more than promises. People remember what you delivered, not what you explained. Over time, those who rely on explanations fade into background noise, while those who produce results stand out naturally. Results do not shout. They don't argue. They don't defend themselves. They simply exist. And their presence changes how people see you, how opportunities find you, and how confident you become in your own ability to follow through. If you want to be taken seriously, stop talking and start building. If you want respect, deliver outcomes. If you want influence, let your results speak. Because in the end, results are the loudest voice in the room. Most opinions come at a cost, even when they are offered for free. They cost focus, clarity, confidence, and momentum. Opinions pull your attention away from what you are building and redirect it toward what others think. When you accept too many opinions, you allow other people to rent space in your mind, often without paying the price you are paying to pursue your goals. Not every ion is informed, and not every informed opinion is useful. Many people speak from emotion, fear, or personal limitation. Their advice is shaped by their experiences, not your assignment. When you listen without filtering, you risk adopting perspectives that were never meant to guide your life. This is why opinions can be expensive. They influence decisions quietly, slowly, and often without your awareness. Opinions create hesitation. The more voices you allow in, the harder it becomes to move forward with confidence. You begin to question choices you were once certain about. Momentum slows as doubt creeps in. What started as a clear direction becomes clouded by conflicting perspectives. Progress requires decisiveness, and decisiveness is weakened when you give equal weight to every opinion. Most opinions are reactive, not strategic. People comment on what they see on the surface, not on the long-term vision you are pursuing. They judge progress by speed rather than direction, by comfort rather than growth. When you absorb these opinions, you may feel pressure to adjust your path prematurely. This can pull you off course and delay results. Opinions also drain emotional energy. Every piece of feedback invites an emotional response, whether it is agreement, defense, or self-doubt. Managing these emotions takes effort. Over time, this effort accumulates into exhaustion. When you are emotionally tired, discipline weakens. Focus becomes harder to maintain. The cost of opinion shows up as burnout, not because the work is too hard, but because the mental load is too heavy. Listening to too many opinions can disconnect you from your own judgment. You begin to outsource decisions instead of trusting your reasoning and experience. This weakens self-reliance. Growth requires making choices, learning from outcomes, and adjusting. When opinions override personal accountability, learning slows. You stop developing discernment because you are always looking outward for direction. Opinions often reward conformity. Many people are uncomfortable with uncommon paths. When you pursue something different, opinions tend to push you back toward what feels familiar to them. This is not malicious, it is human nature. But if you follow these opinions, you trade originality for approval. The price of approval is often the loss of potential. Expensive opinions are not always negative. Praise can be just as distracting as criticism. Compliments can create complacency. They can make you feel finished when you are only beginning. When you start performing for approval, focus shifts from improvement to image. This slows growth and weakens results. Discernment is the skill that protects you from expensive opinions. Discernment allows you to evaluate who is qualified to speak into your life. It asks simple questions. Has this person done what I am trying to do? Do they understand the process, not just the outcome? Are they invested in my growth or just reacting to my choices? Without discernment, opinions become noise. Reducing opinions increases speed. When you limit access to your decisions and direction, you move faster. You execute without overthinking. You adjust based on results, not reactions. This creates clarity and confidence. Progress accelerates when fewer voices compete for control of your attention. Most opinions feel harmless in the moment, but their long-term cost is significant. They delay action, weaken confidence, and dilute focus. Protecting your vision means being selective about what you listen to and who you listen to. It means valuing results over reassurance and discipline over approval. When you stop paying attention to unnecessary opinions, you regain control. Control of your mind, control of your pace, control of your future. That control is worth far more than any advice that did not earn the right to guide you. Growth often begins in places that feel uncomfortable, quiet, and lonely. Before elevation comes isolation, not as a punishment, but as a process. Isolation is the environment where transformation happens. It is where distractions are removed, focus is sharpened, and identity is strengthened. Most people avoid isolation because it feels like loss, but in reality, it is preparation. Isolation creates space for honesty. When you are away from constant input, comparison, and expectation, you are forced to confront yourself. You begin to see your habits clearly without the influence of other people's opinions. This clarity is essential for growth. You cannot elevate a life you have not examined. Isolation gives you the opportunity to reflect, evaluate, and realign. In isolation, priorities become clear. Without the noise of social pressure, you discover what truly matters. You stop doing things to fit in and start doing things to move forward. This shift is powerful. It separates desire from discipline and intention from commitment. Growth requires this separation because elevation demands alignment. Isolation builds strength. When you are alone with your goals, there is no external motivation, no applause, and no validation. The only thing pushing you forward is your commitment. This builds internal discipline. You learn to show up without being seen. You learn to work without being celebrated. These skills are essential for sustaining success when attention eventually arrives. Many people confuse isolation with abandonment, but isolation is selective. It is the conscious decision to limit access, not because others are bad, but because growth is fragile in its early stages. Just as a seed is buried before it grows, progress often happens out of sight. Isolation protects the process until it is strong enough to withstand exposure. Isolation also removes comparison. Comparison distorts perspective. It makes you measure your journey against someone else's timeline. In isolation, you focus on your own progress. You stop rushing. You stop doubting. You stop questioning whether you are ahead or behind. You simply move forward. This creates peace and consistency, both of which are necessary for growth. Before elevation, skills must be developed. Skills require repetition, focus, and time. These conditions are difficult to maintain in crowded environments. Isolation provides the uninterrupted space needed to practice, fail, learn, and improve. It allows you to master the fundamentals before stepping into larger opportunities. Isolation strengthens identity. When you are not constantly influenced by external expectations, you begin to define yourself by your values and actions. This clarity creates confidence. Confidence built in isolation is not dependent on feedback. It is rooted in self-trust. When elevation comes, this confidence prevents you from being swayed by pressure or praise. Isolation also teaches patience. Growth does not happen overnight, and isolation forces you to slow down and commit to the process. It teaches you to value long-term progress over short-term validation. This patience is critical because elevation often arrives suddenly, but only after long periods of quiet preparation. Many people quit during isolation because they mistake silence for stagnation. They believe that if no one sees their progress, it must not be real. This belief is dangerous. The most significant growth often happens when no one is watching. Elevation is built on these unseen moments. When elevation finally arrives, it feels natural to those who endured isolation. The responsibilities, expectations, and pressure do not overwhelm them because they were prepared in private. Isolation gave them depth, resilience, and clarity. What looks like overnight success to others is the result of long seasons of solitude and effort. Growth requires isolation because elevation demands strength. The higher you go, the more weight you must carry. Isolation builds that strength quietly, deliberately, and effectively. It is not a detour from growth, it is the path. Those who understand this do not fear isolation. They embrace it, they use it. And when elevation comes, they are ready to stand there without losing themselves. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. That difference alone explains why discipline wins every time. Motivation depends on how you feel, and feelings are inconsistent. They change with mood, environment, energy, and circumstance. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It operates on commitment, not emotion. When motivation fades, discipline remains and progress continues. Motivation is often sparked by excitement, inspiration, or pressure. It feels powerful in the moment, but it is temporary by nature. Discipline is built slowly through repetition and choice. It may not feel exciting, but it is reliable. Reliable effort compounds. Emotional effort disappears when conditions are not ideal. This is why people who rely on motivation start strong and finish weak, while disciplined people start slow and finish unstoppable. Discipline creates systems that remove decision-making. When you're disciplined, you do not debate whether to act. You already decided. The routine is set, the standard is clear. This eliminates hesitation and excuses. Motivation requires constant renewal. Discipline requires consistency. One demands energy, the other conserves it. Discipline carries you through resistance. Every meaningful goal includes discomfort. There will be days when the work feels heavy, boring, inconvenient. Motivation avoids these days. Discipline expects them. It plans for resistance and moves anyway. Growth lives on the other side of resistance, and discipline is the bridge that gets you there. Motivation seeks results quickly. Discipline respects process. When you are motivated, you want immediate feedback and visible progress. When results slow down, motivation disappears. Discipline understands that progress is not always visible in the early stages. It stays committed even when outcomes are delayed. This patience is what allows real growth to take place. Discipline builds confidence differently than motivation. Motivation makes you feel confident before the work is done. Discipline builds confidence after the work is completed. One is emotional, the other is earned. Confidence built through discipline is stable because it is based on evidence. You trust yourself because you have proven you can show up consistently. Discipline also protects focus. When you are disciplined, you are less reactive. You do not chase every opportunity or respond to every distraction. Your standards guide your actions. This creates clarity. Clarity reduces stress. Stress reduction increases performance. Discipline quietly improves every area of life through structure and boundaries. Motivation depends on external factors. Discipline is internal. External pressure, praise, or inspiration may trigger motivation, but they cannot sustain it. Discipline is sustained by values and identity. You act not because you feel like it, but because it aligns with who you are becoming. This identity-based action creates long-term change. Discipline compounds over time. Small, consistent actions may seem insignificant in isolation, but together they create massive results. Motivation looks for big moves. Discipline masters small ones. The difference shows up months and years later. Indisciplined habits produce outcomes that motivation alone could never achieve. Discipline also creates freedom. Structure may feel restrictive at first, but it eventually removes chaos. When your actions are guided by discipline, you experience less regret, fewer crises, and more control. Control creates peace. Peace creates clarity. Clarity allows you to operate at a higher level. Motivation is useful, but it is unreliable. Discipline is not exciting, but it is effective. Motivation may start the journey, but discipline finishes it. Every lasting achievement is built on days when motivation was absent, but discipline showed up anyway. In the end, success does not belong to the most inspired person in the room. It belongs to the most consistent one, and consistency is the product of discipline. As this comes to a close, remember this: the next level of your life will not be built in noise, excuses, or constant explanation. It will be built in silence, focus, and discipline. When you protect your energy, narrow your attention, ignore unnecessary opinions, and commit to consistent action, you give yourself the freedom most people are still searching for. Growth will isolate you before it elevates you. Results will speak for you before you ever need to speak for yourself. Motivation may come and go, but discipline will carry you when emotions cannot. If you stay focused, stay silent, and stay committed, time will work in your favor. So move with intention, work without announcement, build without permission, let your habits shape your future, and let your results make the introduction. Because when you truly focus on yourself, the world eventually takes notice without you having to say a word.